perspective. And I think that's a good chunk of what happened. There's always anomalies in the system. The collapse in natural HDPE was caused by one company that had decided to put all its recycled content buying into one of its consumer products, and then they sold the product to a company that had absolutely no interest in recycled content. So when that market was so heavily dependent on one buyer and that buyer disappeared, it still has not really recovered from that free fall. That was natural HDPE. So you see things like that too. It's a great question. And by the way, all my slides, including the speaker notes, which include a lot of data, will be available through Cirque or myself after the conference.
Thank you very much.
So the other influence at that time is the feedstock to make raw material. So natural gas prices spiked to $10, oil prices spiked. We make most plastic baseline commodities out of natural gas in the United States. The rest of the world, they make plastics out of oil.
Yeah, that's an excellent hub and an excellent point. And Henry Hub has been down over the last year. So that means, I'm sorry, that means your natural gas prices are down, what they're paying. There's got to be another question out there. I don't think we dazzled everybody that brilliantly.
Hey, could I hear something about the e-commerce box? So maybe the recovery of the box around the box, where those are ending up, if it's causing generation or recovery of those?
Is actually declining. So the data is a little bit dirty here. We rely on producers to accurately tell us who they're selling boxes to by NAICS code, and if they're not classified as an e-commerce merchant, it's not going to show up in that category. Amazon just put out their bid mid last year for boxes. It was roughly 8% of all US consumption. Like, that is a ridiculous number. However, Amazon is going to be pushing more for ships in its own container, which is going to push some of the onus of responsibility back on the brands to have a ground shipment ready package. At the same time, Amazon's also trying to do a reduced size so that their logistics are more optimized. So from a MRF standpoint, we are seeing a lot of smaller boxes hit the MRFs, and because they're very small, sometimes they don't make it through the screens the same way. You know, the recycling partnership data definitely showed that we're missing a grand opportunity at the curbside with collecting boxes. I know just from the work that I've done that we're missing a lot when it comes to curbside recycling. The one positive to Amazon's like box on demand though is that even though the box is smaller, when people unfold it and flatten it, it's about 20% bigger than a comparable box. So that shouldn't be as much of a problem in the MRFs, surprisingly. Even though the box itself seems smaller, it's using more material. I don't know if I adequately answered your question there or not, but there's some interesting trends.
Yeah, Amazon is what percent of e-commerce? Like 20, high 20s, high 30s?
Well, it depends on who you ask, but I think most people would say it's probably as high as 40% of e-commerce.
Okay. And Amazon data shows that it ships a little under half of what its sellers sell. Is that correct?
I'm not up to speed on that data. However, 40%, right around 40% of the boxes, or 40% of the shipments that they had in 2022 were in corrugated boxes.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big number.
Oh, it's a very big number. And Amazon is the big presence in e-commerce, but it's not the only presence. And I think what Amazon is doing definitely is going to have an impact on that. The question is, how does that play out among all the other e-commerce companies?
Well, I think the overall trend here is twofold with Amazon. So one, the optimization of their logistics. By having a smaller box, they have better efficiency through logistics. And that's really the whole play, is they want to have a better cube in their trucks. So that's, you got to understand, that's the whole motivation for the smaller packages. But the second motivation to reduce the number of boxes they're consuming and to shift it back on the brands, I think is twofold. First, it reduces their amount of spend on corrugated packaging, but then two, it lowers their exposure to EPR. Now, I know that's probably a bold thing to say, but I think they're that savvy that they're making a move even 5 years before it happens to position themselves to have a low risk and mitigated approach there.
So adding into some of that, so Amazon, just to be clear, Amazon's forcing the producer to avoid them having to do a box in a box. That's one of the objectives they're trying to get to, is
Absolutely.
get away from box in a box. But the other thing, if you all would notice on a personal level, how many soft packaging items you're getting. So you get, if you're an Amazon Prime, you can get that current day service. Very rarely is that item showing up in a box anymore. It's showing up in soft packaging, which is not truly recyclable. They will take it back, but it's not truly recyclable. That's part of the issue. I think the other that is just terrible data. Ryan may have better data. So spring of 22, Walmart and everybody that size announces, oh goodness gracious, we have tens of billions of dollars of too much inventory. And it's less of, that's the distribution center box, and the sort of the whole order cycle of inventory replacement. It has taken Walmart and all of them far longer to fix that inventory issue than they expected, which has had a demand side issue through distribution centers for boxes. I think that's probably cleared at this point. Those are sort of some of the compounding effects that you've been seeing around the market, I think, that are the incremental noise that are hard to get data for.
Yeah. The other side of the Amazon and big e-commerce platform, there is a much bigger play now for the Gaylord style and very large format boxes. So they're much easier to recycle and much easier to reuse, and there is an actual aftermarket for people who sell those used boxes. So that's another little caveat to this whole thing is, we're looking at why box consumption is going down, and people are finding new ways to do distribution. They're finding new ways to meet the demands with new and innovative ways to reduce their exposure and costs.
And then to talk to Federico's comments, SOP, the other place to look for data is the Secured Information Destruction World. So they're an enormous collector of this paper in bins. And what you can see coming out of COVID is, we stopped generating as much of this paper. So, the biggest player in that Stericycle, pre-COVID, they were capturing about 750,000 tons a year of SOP. Today, that number is down by 200,000 tons, and it's structural. They're back to the same number of stops, but this is a structural change. We just aren't generating as much of it.
Okay, I have another question in the back here. Plastics question. What industry do you see is setting the marginal price for recycled polypropylene right now? I just didn't hear that mentioned earlier.
Could you repeat the question, please?
What industry do you see? We talked about water, sewage, new homes setting the price for recycled HDPE, but for recycled polypropylene, what industry do you see is kind of setting marginal demand, marginal price?
I wouldn't say that there's any company setting price. ADS is one of the biggest, but they do primarily HDPE. KW Plastics in Troy has long done polypropylene along with HDPE, but I'm not sure that they've got market presence, but I'm not sure that goes beyond that.
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say we're very early days on true secondary market check, because there's really only one player who's on the recycling side of that. That's Pure Cycle from a standpoint of what they're trying to do, and even the MRFs have only introduced in the last 5 years the sorting technology through sensors optical sensors to get it out. But remember, polypropylene, number 5, there's a consumable side of that, and then there's a durable side, and it's the single largest plastic by volume produced in the world because of the multi-uses. So, your car bumper is polypropylene, but your yogurt cup, your carrot cup, cottage cheese, that's polypropylene. And where we haven't figured out the sourcing yet. You get a lot of post-industrial, still haven't gotten a really reliable post-consumer. So I'm not sure we have defined secondary markets yet.
Anybody else like to ask you a question? We got in front of you.
Hi, Evan Barrett with GFL. First of all, thank you very much to the panel. I spend a terrific amount of time, as many of you do, on these topics, and I feel that you summed them up extremely well. I believe there is absolute truth, and even in the differences between what was said today, I believe there's truth embedded in all of them, and so it just sort of showcases how dynamic the environment is right now. With that said, and having the sort of different approaches that we're taking, if each of you could just run down, like, if you had one statement from a MRF operator perspective for 2024 as far as strategy goes, like where, like, if you just had to boil it down to one comment and say, this is where I would, put your attention and focus as far as strategy for maximizing basket of goods in 2024, I'd just be interested to see. You can also totally pass on this if it's too if it's too hard to summarize.
No, I think for MRFs it's very simple. You've got to increase your sorting technology. You want to increase the precision of the technology. The debate between optical sorters and robotics and AI, it still has to play out. AI is becoming extraordinarily influential. But remember, new MRFs are not built overnight, and it takes a while to replace equipment in a MRF. So it takes time for these changes in technology to really have an impact. They're having an impact, but we still have a ways to go. And then there'll be new technology even better.
So I'm going to take a slightly different tack, not difference, just a slightly different angle on it. Tell your story. Yeah. So this is a message. I'll give Ben Harvey credit for this when he was chairman of NWA. Don Ross, who's now the current chairman, continue it. We all have to figure out how to tell this story better so that the marketplace, consumer all the way up to the packaging industry, understands what our role is, how important that role is, and you can't actually get what the end game is unless you include us in the conversation, but they don't know that we actually have a story to tell. So telling that story is huge. Every chance you get to inform the public, not lecture, just inform them. Open your doors, let them see it. We've all gone by very quietly doing what we're doing. Here's an anecdote. On March 13th, we got told, or 12th, we got told on March 13th the world was shutting down, 2020. On March 14th, 100% of the employees in the solid waste and recycling industry showed up and did their job, and they did their job every single day after that. No other industry or business environment did. You have a great story to tell. Tell your story.
Go for it.
Oh, all right. I don't know that I'm going to be the greatest source on this, but I would say, I think paper, especially OCC, carries the weight of recycling. So do your best to capture as much as you can. And I would say my personal opinion on this would be, we are not doing a very good job of capturing the next generation. So I would encourage any company to go out and sign a teenager to be your social media marketing guru. Get on TikTok, get on Instagram, get on everything. Pay them very well. I'm not even kidding. Find a 15-year-old kid and make them a star.
Tinder too?
I don't, do what?
Tinder?
Tinder. I don't know about Tinder. If you got 15-year-olds on Tinder, we got a problem. Whoa. Hey. I mean, listen, if that's how you're going to open the conversation in the dating world, wow. All right. Does this guy know how to party or what?
You said it. You need a teenager. Oh, got getting Tinder.
No. Okay. But seriously, I would think there's a tremendous opportunity to change the landscape through the next generation. We need to like, I can guarantee you most people have no idea what is actually recyclable and what actually happens at a MRF. They have no idea. They've never visited. I visited my local landfill just for fun last year. I was blown away. I tell people that and they're like, you're strange. Yes, you're welcome. But seriously, I would say that fundamentally, why more people are not doing this, I don't know. It would be a game changer.
Thank you. The world is changing. You know, every month, every year, the industry changes. Every month, you know, every year, you know. We need to have very proactive in terms of have a very open mind what direction we're going and react. We need to react and see the new reality and aim every company in the direction that we need to be costly effective, okay? Making sure that the people who work for us, you know, have a good benefit. And I remember that people used to say when the world always reinvent himself, always. I remember listening to people saying when the people start watching the TV, the radio is gonna be done. I mean, the TV is gonna kill the radio, you know, and that's not the truth. Look at the radio now. So the world reinvented itself, and all the things that we explain based on the knowledge that we have and experience, apply it. You know, it really helps to build you guys' future and to aim the company or running a company in the right direction and succeed in life. That's my opinion.
Thank you all. I'm going to answer one thing to this too, because I've been on both sides. Talk to your customers, your end users for all your material before you buy equipment. I've seen too many people buy equipment and they didn't have the material right for its end use. So that's my bit. And Gene is watching us. We are done. Thank you all so much for participating. Thank you, panel.